You're listening to Parasearch UK Radio. News, views and reviews from the world of the paranormal from across the UK and beyond. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web. Parasearch UK Radio.
The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearch UK Radio or its affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to the KTPF Reload Show. In case you're wondering what the Reload Show is about, if you haven't heard previous shows, these are the interviews that were conducted by good friends of mine, Steve and Sue Taggart, in the days of the KTPF radio show. Their own radio show ran for just over 4 years, broadcasting every week for over 3 hours. I joined them in the last 18 months of the show's run, but eventually the guys felt they'd just about had enough. It was a monumental effort to keep broadcasting every week for 3 hours. It was a wonderful show. But unfortunately they're no longer involved, and the shows have just sort of sat in the archives, so I thought it would be nice to bring them back to life and bring you the interviews that the guys conducted over those 4 years. They include some of the most interesting people within the world of the paranormal and some not so well known, but still, nevertheless still very interesting. We even have 1 or 2 rather unusual shows, including a live seance and other things along those lines. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed tonight's show, and this is the KTPF Reload Show. Enjoy.
This program deals with themes of an adult nature and is intended for a mature audience.
You're in the right place. Online, on the web, and on air. All over the world.
Talk radio.
You hear us, we hear you.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the KTPF Community Talk Show. My name is Suzanne.
And I'm Steve.
And we are here keeping the paranormal friendly. Tonight we've got Uri Geller coming on the phone with us tonight.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, hi, who is this?
This is Suzanne Taggart from the...
Yes, hi Susan, hi.
How are you? This is the KTPF Community Talk Show.
Okay.
Okay, you are live on air.
All right, and tell me, Susan, how many minutes do you want to keep me on air?
Oh, as long as you can spare me, please.
Where are you based?
We're actually in Manchester.
Okay, so I'm sending my love to everyone in Manchester and the area.
Okay, and we've got a lot of people in the chat room tonight from all over England and also from America in Minnesota.
Okay.
All right.
They're all welcome to talk to me, ask me whatever they want to.
Thank you. Thank you. First of all, I want to thank you for taking time to talk to us.
You're welcome.
I know you've got a busy schedule.
Yep.
Okay. Now, first of all, can I call you Uri?
Of course. The actual pronunciation of my name is Uri.
Uri.
Uri is a Hebrew name. It's actually an ancient name, and it means my light, Uri. And it's interesting because the Hebrew language is one of the only languages in the world that hasn't really changed. You still talk Hebrew the way the ancient Israelites talked 5,000 years ago, also writing-wise.
Right. Interesting.
If you didn't know that.
No, I didn't, I'm afraid. What I wanted to ask you, first of all, before we actually got into the other stuff that you do, is I want to ask you about yourself. Who is Uri Geller the man?
Well, I'm just a kind of down-to-earth, very ordinary, simple person who, out of necessity, when I was a child, I wanted to be successful because we were very poor. My mother was a seamstress and a waitress. My father kind of left home, and I knew that I had to make it. I am very much a motivator. I'm a spiritual individual. I believe in everything and anything out there. There's no doubt in my mind that everything that our imagination can imagine will happen or is happening or has happened in the universe. And I'm a showman, I'm an entertainer, I've entertained millions, maybe tens of millions, maybe hundreds of millions of people around the world in the last 4 decades with my television shows, radio, books, and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm today I do what I love doing, and that is continuing my TV shows worldwide. I created a show called The Next Uri Geller, and it's a format, and it has been already in 15 countries. The next place it's going to go to China. I'm a family person. I have 2 children. I love dogs, and I live in a small village outside London.
Oh, right. Okay. So let's get down to the nitty-gritty. I've already got a couple of questions coming in already. But first of all, it's now known that you was or are a psychic spy. What made you take that route?
Well, can you just explain me, Susan, now that I'm on the air with you, can this be heard actually?
Yes.
Okay, so it's heard on the internet worldwide?
Yes.
Okay.
So you can say what you can say, what you can't say. Obviously, you can keep to yourself.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure
Yeah.
How widespread your program is. But nevertheless, when I was about 8 years old, 7 or 8 years old, I loved the biblical lessons, scriptures, and so forth. And there is a story in the Bible about Moses sending 11 spies to Canaan to spy and to find out how the land looks, what the people do, what kind of work there is there, how rich the land is. And these spies went to spy and came back with information. And actually, one of the most important symbols in Israel today is 2 people carrying a huge bunch of grapes, and those were the spies. And I was very much intrigued by that world. As a child, I used to go to see spy films, war movies, and so on. When my parents divorced, my mother took me to Cyprus,
Mm-hmm.
and my stepfather unfortunately died from a heart attack, and he left my mother and me a tiny bed and breakfast hotel which he ran.
Mm.
And that little bed and breakfast establishment became a Mossad safe house, simply because the Israelis found out that we are from Israel, and they thought that would be a great place to lodge spies. And there was the first person that I encountered was an Israeli Mossad spy agent called Yoav Shaham. And I was about 12 or 13 years old, and I confronted him, and I said, Yoav, you are a spy, aren't you? I kind of read his mind. He was absolutely shocked. And my first missions, believe it or not, was when I was about 13 years old. He told me that I will be getting letters from Arabic countries, and my task would be to jump on my bicycle and cycle them to Israeli embassy and hand them over to the consul. And I loved it. It was so intriguing, and it kind of shot me into the movies that I was seeing.
Mm-hmm.
So that ignited this quest of becoming a spy, and he told me that he will get me into the Mossad when I finish my army service. So that's how it all started.
I see. And
let me just add that the reason you're asking these questions is that recently the BBC produced a documentary about this side of my life. It's called The Secret Life of Uri Geller. And anyone listening to us, you're more than welcome to view this documentary. It's on my homepage, on my website, which is urigeller.com. It's free to watch. And the book came out after the documentary by Jonathan Margolis, who writes for the Financial Times and very prestigious British publications, including Time magazine. And the book is just mind-boggling and kind of scary. When I read it, I thought, oh my gosh, what have I let myself into?
Mm-hmm.
And this is why all these stories started popping out, that I had a double life.
Yeah, I see. Now, you class yourself as a psychic. Now, are we talking about a psychic, medium type psychic? And where do you think your gift comes from?
I'm not a medium.
Right.
I do not speak to the dead.
Okay.
Although I do believe in the afterlife.
Okay.
There is absolutely no doubt in my mind that there is a life after death, and I can just give you a very simple scientific explanation to why I believe this.
Mm-hmm.
It is because in 1924, Albert Einstein came out with a riveting equation, which we all remember from school, E equals mc squared.
Yeah.
With this equation, Albert Einstein proved scientifically that everything in the universe is made from energy, and energy cannot be destroyed. So even the phone I'm holding, or if you have a table or the wall in front of you, if you bang your hand against the wall, to you it feels solid, but it's not solid. It is actually energy. And you must then ask the question, well, hang on, if you die and when we die, what happens to our energy? What happens to our body? What happens to our soul? What happens to our spirit if we are made from energy and energy cannot be destroyed? So that's why I'm such a huge believer in the beyond life.
Right. Have you ever had any proof of it? Have you ever seen anything at all?
I have seen a few times ghosts.
Okay.
And and it blew my mind. I just knew that it was real what I was seeing. I'll tell you the very the most amazing one.
Mm-hmm.
My mother, God bless her, passed away about 8 years ago. She was 91.
Mm-hmm.
And because we're Jewish, I had to get permission to bury her in the local village churchyard.
Yeah.
From the rabbi and from the vicar.
Mm-hmm.
So we got the permission and we buried her, and I had to create a tombstone for her. And my local rabbi introduced me to a tombstone maker, to a mason who does marble work. He came one Sunday morning to show me pieces of different granites and marble for me to choose which tombstone I would like my mother to have. For some strange reason, I did not open the gate for him of our property. And I said to him in the intercom, wait in your car, I'm coming out to you. As I was walking up the path towards the big iron gates, which you can see through, I saw him sitting in the car with his lovely dog sitting next to him. And when I saw the dog, I knew that this is a good man. Because remember, I told you I'm a dog lover.
Yeah.
And anyone who loves dogs and cats or any animal, they're just good people.
Yes.
So I get up to the gate, and the dog is next to him. It was a white, blackish mixed terrier. And then I press the keypad to open the side gate so I can get out. So I opened the side gate and I walked towards this car, which was only 3 meters away from me. And my instinct was to go to the dog first and pat the dog. So I walked over to the passenger side. Mm-hmm. I look into the car and there is no dog. So I tell this man to roll down his window.
Yeah.
And I put my head in the car and look around, and there's absolutely no dog there. And I tell him, where is the dog? I mean, where is he? I just saw your dog. And his face ashened. He said to me,
yeah,
Mr. Geller, I'm shocked. because my dog died 6 months ago, and I used to drive with him everywhere, and that's where he sat.
Aww.
I was so stunned.
Yeah.
Because, I've never actually seen a ghost so vividly that I just left the car, ran back to the house to tell my wife, Hannah, what I've just seen. And I realized that my mother probably arranged for this encounter. Anyhow, I don't want to go on rumbling, but that's my most classical ghost story.
Okay, that sounds good, that one. Now, before I carry on with your psychic spy life, I've got a question in the chat room for you from Mank Hypno Man. He would like to ask, you mentioned your Phenomenon TV show. Will it be coming to the UK?
Yes, absolutely. It's been now in, as I said before, in 15 countries. When I finish China, I still have 4 or 5 countries to complete, and then I quit this because it's already 8 years on the road. Because in every country it's live, so I've got to be there.
Yeah.
When I finish China, I will do France, Italy, England, and Spain. So I don't know which country will come first, though, because I handed my format to big distributors, German distributors, and they deal with it.
Yeah.
But the answer is yes, and I hope it'll be on ITV.
Good. Right, going back to your psychic life, your spy life, rather. Did you meet other psychic spies? And if you can say so, who impressed you the most? And of the psychics that you met? Yeah,
well, look, when all of you who are listening will see the documentary on my website, and please get the book from Amazon. It's not an expensive book, and it's worth reading because it's so, it's so mind-blowing. Just shows you what the governments and big secret agencies like the National Security Agency and outfits of that nature did with people who were intuitive and remote viewers. But I've done quite a few missions as a spy for different agencies, which I won't mention which, but the book kind of subliminally refers to all of them. You don't meet other spies. It's like a compartment. You don't know who is the other person you're working with or working or getting help from, because it's so top secret. So I just never actually met another psychic or paranormal spy. What I do know is that when I was being tested at Stanford Research Institute by the CIA to validate my powers, indirectly I believe that I set up the program for the CIA, which was called remote viewing, which was led by Dr. Hal Puthoff and Russell Targ. There were different remote viewers from around America, and their task was to send their mind through space and time and bring back valid information.
I see.
One of the, there are many missions that we've done, but one of them came out a kind of in an indirect manner. It was top secret, and the story goes like this. A Russian plane with secret information on board crashed in Africa, in Zaire. And although we have amazing satellites that can film and take pictures, once the satellite is obstructed by clouds, or like this plane crashed under the jungle's canopy, so satellites could not locate it. And this was under President Carter's presidency. Anyhow, to make a long story short, President Carter was lecturing in a university after he resigned, and a student asked him, President Carter, did anything weird or strange or paranormal happen while you were the president? And he said, yeah, a Russian plane crashed in Zaire and a psychic found the plane for us. So that's how that top secret story got out.
Right.
But then I was also asked, I don't want to sound boasting or showing off, but some of these weird missions I had, one of them was to bombard the Russians, a Russian negotiator, to sign the nuclear arms reduction treaty. So I was briefed in London by Ambassador Max Kempelman, top secret meeting. Then I went to Geneva with the head of the American Foreign Relations Committee, Senator Claiborne Pell. I got really close to Yuri Vorontsov, the Russian negotiator, and bombarded his mind by simply telepathically instructing him to sign. I said, sign. And they signed. Of course, I can't claim that it was only because of me, but I certainly believe that I was an instigator, that I played a major role in that decision.
Okay. It was at this time, did you feel like you was being treated like a guinea pig with all the tests that you went through?
Oh, absolutely, especially at Stanford Research Institute, because I was a showman. I wanted show business. I wanted to be on Merv Griffin and Mike Douglas and Johnny Carson. And when I did the Johnny Carson, I actually walked into a trap, because Johnny was an amateur magician, and he set me up. And I can't say that nothing worked. The spoon bent, but it wasn't enough for him. And I sat there for 22 minutes, humiliated. And the only thought that was kind of in my mind, Uri Geller, you're finished. Because, everyone said if you get on Johnny Carson, it's the biggest show in America. And I planned on getting back to the hotel to pack and go back to Israel. And after this humiliation, I went back to the hotel. I was devastated. I fell on the bed and fell asleep. And in the morning, the operator wakes me up. And she says, Mr. Geller, I have a Merv Griffin on the line for you. Now, Merv Griffin was as big as Johnny Carson in television land. And I couldn't believe it. I said, is it right? Is it really you, Mr. Merv Griffin? And he said, yes, and I saw you last night on Johnny Carson, and I want you on my show this week. And that's when I realized, Susan, that there's no such thing as bad publicity.
No.
As long as they spell your name correctly, and it all goes back to what Oscar Wilde said 100 years ago, that there is only one worse thing in life than being talked about, and that's not being talked about.
Sounds a good philosophy, that one. Now, going back to the chat room, we've got some questions for you again. We've got Doc Savage, as we call him, John in Minnesota. He would like to know a bit more about your psychokinesis, and where did you first realize that you was able to do it?
Well, the first time that I discovered that I can bend a spoon was when I was about 5 or 6. The spoon bent. I was eating soup in our little kitchen in Tel Aviv, in our kind of shabby apartment, and the spoon started bending and broke in half. And that actually gave me the idea to later on to create an act out of it. Because you see, I'm a show-off. I used to show off in school. I wanted all the kids to see this amazing talent I had.
Yeah.
I thought that it was a natural thing that, other children played better football than me or basketball or played the piano, and I could bend spoons. And even today, I'm amazed how I drove it into world culture. People like Johnny Cash sing about spoon bending, Kenny Rogers, the movie The Matrix. Remember there's a little child who teaches how to bend a spoon. Keanu Reeves walks into the Oracle, and it's all about spoon bending. Robert De Niro just played me in a movie. My name is mentioned in Woody Allen films. So I'm just totally amazed that a rather trivial, although iconic spoon bending became such a worldwide hit, especially with magicians. Because there are hundreds and hundreds of magicians that do spoon bending much better than I do it.
Yeah.
And I'm very flattered and very pleased that I brought something weird and bizarre into the world, and hundreds of thousands of people imitate Uri Geller.
I must admit, my first sighting of you was when you were bending spoons.
Yeah, that was
and it was very
probably the day. I don't know how old are you?
Oh, you really want to ask that?
Yes, how old are you?
I will be half a century this year.
You sound like a teenager, and I bet you look very young. So you do remember that show? It was the David Dimbleby. David is still around. It was 1972,
yes.
And it was a huge show because it was right after Miss World, so everyone was watching.
Yeah.
And I did something that I've never done before. I looked into the camera and I asked everyone in England and Scotland and Ireland and Wales to get their spoons and bring them to the TV set and bring along broken watches.
And I did.
And watches came alive and spoons bent, flew off television sets, and the next day I was the most famous individual in England.
Yes.
All the papers carried headlines, Uri Geller puts England in a bend. And because then there was no internet, there was no Twitter, and there was no Facebook, and there was no emails.
No.
So every country wanted me to come and show this talent on their television shows. And that's how I started traveling the world and blowing minds of millions of people around the world.
I remember a while back, I can't remember exactly, but 90s or 80s, I saw a program where you had this, was it a Cadillac, that was covered in forks and spoons and stuff.
Well,
it was fascinating.
I was rather shallow in the early 70s, meaning, I wanted to show off to my friends that I made it. So I went out and bought a Cadillac.
Yeah.
In 1976, Fleetwood, beautiful car, but I never drove it because it was so huge. Yeah, Fleetwood Brougham. And when I came to live in England, when I left New York, somebody offered me $800 for the car. I said, no way, I'm going to bring it to England.
Yeah.
And while it was sitting in my garage, I got this idea of riveting all my spoon collection to the body of the car, and I collected spoons for 4 decades. I've got spoons that Elvis gave me, John Lennon, Muhammad Ali. I've got spoons that belong to prime ministers, presidents, kings, and queens. The mascot was given to me by Salvador Dali. It's a sphere, rock crystal sphere. And it's now going to museums, and I raise money for charity with it.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, nice.
There are pictures on my website. Again, my website is urigeller.com. And there are 2 very unusual documentaries on it. The BBC's The Secret Life of Uri Geller, and another one which is actually in America on Hulu.com, but it's also on my website, and it's called Uri Geller, A Life Stranger Than Fiction. And I really urge you to get the book from Amazon, because you will find it very, very, very unusually interesting.
Yeah. Okay, we'll do that. Now, going back to John in Minnesota, he also would like to know, you mentioned the watches recently in your last answer. He was wondering what items have you been able to move, and would you like to know, he would also like to know more about whether you was able to make a watch speed up and slow down.
Look, in the last 4 decades, I've done so many weird, again, and bizarre and strange things. There's no doubt in my mind that I slowed down watches. I actually stopped the Big Ben twice.
Wow.
And in Stanford, I could move a 1 gram weight. It actually levitated off an electronic balance. In the documentary, The Secret Life of Uri Geller, you can actually see that experiment. And also there is the Stanford Research Institute film is also on my website. That's a half an hour scientific movie. And I think you'll find it extremely mesmerizing because in 1972, in the early 70s, it was very unusual to be tested by a government body like the CIA. So to move objects with the power of the mind is much more difficult for me than to bend metal. And that is the truth. So that's the answer.
Right, okay. Now we've got another one here for you from Chris. He's most of us are paranormal investigators, just to let you know, but he's from SPI. He would like to know, how do you manage to keep such a positive mental attitude along with a positive state of mind in this hectic world?
Well, because, you see, I am very controversial. You all know that. I've been called many different very nasty names throughout my career by some skeptics are really terrible in what they said about me. But I very quickly learned that I can use that controversy, the negativity, because I'm a master publicist, and I say this shamelessly. I know how PR works, and I knew how to twist those negative, controversial, debunk Uri Geller to my advantage. And I did it very cleverly. And through all that, I had to keep a positive mind. I had to be motivated and inspired to be successful. But I'm also, remember, a spiritual individual. I'm a believer. I'm a religious man. I believe in God. So I empowered myself with call it the forces of the universe, meditations, affirmations, my family. I have two great children, Daniel, who lives in New York. He's a lawyer, and Natalie lives in Los Angeles. She's an actress. Fantastic wife. I've been married over 40 years, Hannah. I've got amazing friends, and then I've got millions of fans around the world. So I extract their love, and I can feel it. It's an energy. It is a tangible force. Remember, all of us are attached to each other with an invisible spiritual thread. You can't see it, but it's there. So I thrive from that. I collect that power, that energy, and I try to give it back. You know, I have a Facebook page, so I get emails. I get 300 emails a day on my BlackBerry. My email address is on my website, so people find it very easily. And believe it or not, I answer them. It's not a secretary that answers them. I try to answer most of them. And that's the answer to your question.
Okay.
Be a positive thinker. When I get lots of emails from teenagers.
Yeah.
And I'll give you just an ordinary kind of request. Oh, Mr. Geller, we saw you on television last night. Can you teach me how to bend a spoon? My answer is immediate. This is my answer. I write back, forget spoon bending. Instead, become a positive thinker, focus on school, believe in yourself, create a target goal to go to university, never ever smoke or touch drugs, and think of success. So really that is my message today. Wherever I can, I spread it.
Good. Sounds good to me. Now, you went back to the fact that people were talking about you and said nasty things. Just how much of what people have been saying is actually true, Uri?
Well, look, some of the things that were said were so libelous that I had to pick up the phone and call my attorneys, my lawyers, and sue. Because you can take that much, but hey, when it's a really, really terribly libelous remark, the people who will do that, and if they do it in the press or publicly, I'll go after them, because I will not allow such rubbish to be said about me. You know, the BBC actually did another documentary called See You in Court. This is not only about me, it's about people who sued people or sued the media. And you can probably find it on YouTube if you just put Uri Geller see you in court. Then you will see what type of libelous remarks were said about me.
Right.
So that's my answer. Most, the things that when they say, we don't believe in Uri Geller, is just another good magician or a trickster. I don't care about that. I'm way beyond that. I'm really talking about very hurtful things.
Yeah. Do you think, babe, obviously, we've heard a lot about celebrities like yourself in many different genres pertaining to the paranormal, mediums and such. They do get a lot of stick. And when it comes to people like yourself, do you think people are scared and they don't want to know, or they're trying to push it away, sort of thing?
I didn't quite get your question. Do you mean mediums who are afraid, or?
No, we've noticed that we've had friends of ours that are mediums, celebrity mediums, that have had this sort of animosity.
Well, look, I'll tell you just a good example. Sally Morgan was libeled somewhere. I won't mention now.
No.
Patients. And she called me and she said, "What do you do?" I said, "Well, if it's not true, sue."
Yeah.
And guess what? She won.
Yeah.
I can't remember. It was £100,000, but she was vindicated.
Yes.
And so, because I'm not a medium, and because I don't talk to the dead, and that's not my thing. Yes, a lot of mediums are rubbished all the time. I don't know who out of all the mediums are real and who are charlatans. I don't know that. But I can tell you this. At the end of the day, if you are being rubbished or nasty things are said about you, just forget it and get on with your life.
Yes.
Because the skeptics are just a very, very tiny minority.
Mm-hmm.
I call them molecular nothings. They're kind of insignificant in the bigger picture. Come on.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, just open any newspaper today, any magazine today, any internet site. You will find a horoscope, a zodiac thing. You will find 1 billion psychics doing tarot cards and crystal gazing and whatever. But there are, you can't, no matter what skeptics will say, they will never, the mediums and psychics probably will never ever disappear. They've been there for thousands of years.
Yeah.
So the skeptics are really constantly this is my opinion, really on a sinking ship non-stop all the time.
Yeah.
They really achieve nothing. Maybe, look, some skeptics do good things.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, because I can't bear myself when I hear a charlatan healer, for instance, taking money away from poor people who, they lie to.
Yeah.
So, in some instances, psychics do good things, and some skeptics also do good things. But to start a war with them, it's not worth it. Let them just spell your name correctly, and that will be good publicity for you.
What I actually meant was, Uri, is do you think that sometimes people are scared of the truth? Is that why sometimes they are a bit negative?
I don't know. I think the people who do not believe are basically closed-minded. That's it.
Yeah, well, this is it.
Closed-minded.
Yeah. One question we've had for you on the chat room. What do you think of James Randi?
Well, I have to send him 100 bouquets of flowers because he created the legend and the mystery and the mysticism around Uri Geller. He was acting almost like, and this is obviously coming from me and my opinion, but to me, he was an unpaid publicist.
Yeah.
Because the more he talked about me, the more he mentioned me, the more the forums talked. Everybody was outraged about Uri Geller. The more the mystery kicked in. why is everyone talking about this guy? I mean, if they wanted to kill me off, all they had to do is ignore Uri Geller. Forget him. But they didn't, because most of them probably didn't know how PR works and what publicity, how priceless any publicity is good. There were some times where things that were said, I had to again call the lawyers in.
Mm-hmm.
But in the bigger scale, in the big picture, I owe Randy a big thank you. I met him maybe 2 or 3 times, and actually the last time I met him was when David Blaine did some feat in New York, and I saw Randy there, and he was wearing a long kind of robe, and I thought, okay, now is the moment to walk up to him, shake his hand, and tell him, let's forget everything. Let's shake hands.
Yeah.
So I walked there to him, and I said, Randy, hi, this is Uri Geller, and I stretched out my hand for a handshake. And I said, let's forget everything between us. And he didn't want to shake my hand. He didn't say anything. He just turned away. And I said, Randy, I have my hand stretched out to you. Why aren't you shaking my hand?
Mm.
And he turned his head towards me, kind of looked from down upwards, and he says, because I hate your guts. So
okay.
that summed it up for me. You know? So that's it.
Yeah.
It's even not, for me at this point, from this second, it's not even worth talking about.
Okay. Right, we'll come off that. John in Minnesota would like to know if you've ever done any work with a Russian lady by the name of Nina. I've lost it now.
Kulagina.
Yeah, that's the lady. She's got the same gifts as you.
I know of her, and the stuff that I've done with her, I can't really talk about.
No, that's fair enough.
But she was an amazing, psychic paranormalist. She had incredibly powerful psychokinetic powers. A lot of people tried to expose her, and they said, oh, that's how she does it. Here, we've got it on film, we've got it in that. But I know things that she's done, not publicly, that were quite staggering.
Yeah. Okie dokie. That's Doc's question answered. Andy would like to ask about your UFO encounter as a child.
Well, you know, this is a great example of how skeptics try to sneer at this story and make it that I've met extraterrestrials and I come from a UFO and I'm having lunch with aliens and all that. You know, they try to denigrate you. The skeptics tried, but they failed miserably.
Yeah.
Basically what happened is, and this is exactly the way it happened, I cannot remember exactly how old I was, 5, 6, or 7. But I was playing in an Arabic garden, and I heard kittens cry. And as a child, I wanted to find them. And suddenly, in front of me, from out of nowhere, I saw a sphere of light, and it was strobing. I just looked at it, and then it zapped me. Something like, almost like a laser beam, hit my forehead. And it was so powerful that it pushed me into the grass. I don't know how long I lay there, but then I ran home to tell my mother, and she didn't believe me. She thought I was either making it up or I dreamt it. But I know it happened. And so I've written about it quite a few times in many of my books.
Yeah.
I spoke about it on television. I spoke about it on radio. And lo and behold, about, I don't know, maybe 9 years ago, there was another documentary about me, a lot of documentaries by the BBC, called, it was a biographical documentary. I can't remember what it was called now. But that documentary played in Israel, and in which I talk about this encounter. And I get an email from a retired Air Force officer and says, Mr. Geller, my name is Abrahami, and I'm telling you that I saw that sphere of light and I saw you, because I was a young soldier, 23 years old, walking down Rothschild Boulevard, and I passed your street, Ahadaam, and I looked into the garden and I saw this little boy with black hair, white shirt, and this huge sphere next to him. And then he describes how I ran home, and this sphere followed me and kind of exploded on the entrance of our apartment building. And to me that was vastly important, because it was the first time that someone was validating the story that I was telling for so many years that was so fantastic to believe.
Right. Okie dokie. That's that question answered. Right. Do you, Doc Savage would like to know, do you still do remote viewing?
Well, when you read The Secret Life of Uri Geller, I think you will deduce yourself whether I do it or not. I can tell you, yes, I do it, but I will not mention to whom.
Okay.
And it's not only me. I'm not unique in remote viewing.
No. What actually is it, Uri?
It is just people who can be trained to heighten their intuitive energies, forces, powers, call it whatever, consciousness, intuition, and bring back information through space and time. By the way, when you say Doc Savage, is this the Doc Savage that I read about sometimes? You have a website. Am I correct, Susan?
On my website.
Well, there is a Doc Savage out there that is very much in the paranormal field. I think from Scotland. I might be wrong.
No, Doc's. It's just a nickname we call him because his surname's Savage, so we call him Doc Savage.
Because there is a Doc Savage, very much in something to do with paranormal or the mysterious. So I thought maybe that was him.
No, that's not him. Sorry. But talking about Doc, and
Doc's laughing.
They're laughing now. John, my brother-in-law, and Doc. John, his name's John as well, you see, that's why we call him Doc. Okay. They both want to know simultaneously a joint question here. What do you do to relax, and how do you keep your gift tuned in?
By performing. I do, even in a restaurant, I would bend a spoon. Yesterday I was in London and I walked into a Greek coffee shop, and the guy recognized me because my television show, The Next Uri Geller, played 11 weeks in Greece 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. So he was so excited that he brought me a spoon, and I bent it. So that was almost an exercise. I exercise it that way.
Yeah.
I meditate. I walk in the fields. I live in a very beautiful village right on the River Thames, and we're not flooded, thanks God. And
good.
But I walk for miles and I exercise. I sit. I have a little gym in my house, and I sit on my exercycle for about 40 minutes, bringing my heart rate to its target zone for my age. Mm-hmm. I'm a positive thinker. I do visualizations. I believe in the power or in the law of attraction. Yes, that's all. That's the way I live. I have no plans. I have no agents. I have no managers. I have no PR people. I have no secretaries. My brother-in-law, he helps me out. That's how I live, and I'm very, very happy this way. I used to have offices in New York and secretaries and all that, but then I thought, I was very, I had a very tough time in New York because I couldn't handle success. I was finding oil and gold for countries, and I was earning a lot of money, and I didn't know how to handle it. So I became bulimic, and John Lennon directed me to live in Japan. So I picked up all my belongings. I took my wife, my mother, my 2 children. They were toddlers then, brother-in-law, and we flew to Japan, and I disappeared into a jungle right under Mount Fuji. And I would probably still be there. I will live there in a year in the middle of the jungle. but my children had to go to school, so I had to leave Japan. And the reason I'm saying this is because I've been there.
Yeah.
I've had my ups and downs, and I've learned so much from that.
Okay. Now, Andy's come in and he's asking a question. First of all, we'd like to thank you for answering the question about the UFO encounter, because he's never actually heard you talk of it.
Yes, wait, but let me just finish that. I don't know what that encounter was.
No.
Was it a UFO? Was it a spiritual encounter? Was it a geophysical phenomenon?
Yeah.
I don't know what it was,
No.
but it did happen.
Okay. And he wants to ask you another question. He said, "Who won the next Uri Geller?" And it should be shown on UK TV.
Well, in every country there was a winner. I've done the show. I started it off in Israel, then it went to NBC in America, and then Germany and Holland and Sweden and Greece and Turkey and Hungary, and and every country had a winner.
Uh-huh.
But because the show, The Next Uri Geller, is entertainment,
Yeah.
I don't really want to know how the performers do what they do.
Right.
I want one thing and one thing only. I want the people at home to go, wow, how did they do it? And in every country there was an amazing winner. In Holland there was a 13-year-old girl who won. And yes, when I bring the show to England, I wonder who is going to be the winner here.
Yeah. Well, he said it should come to England. He said it'd be good.
Thank you. I agree with you.
Yeah. Right. John in Norfolk, that's my brother-in-law. He would like to know, did you enjoy appearing in the film Sanitarium, and do you plan to appear in any more?
Well, I'm not an actor,
No.
but when I was asked to do that piece in Sanitarium, yeah, it was weird. The film is crazy, and I see it all the time on eBay, and you can actually buy the film off the internet. Yeah, I enjoyed it because I did something that I don't do. I don't act. Also, when I had to sing for charity, I did Stars in Their Eyes. Can you remind me who was the host of Stars in Their Eyes for many years?
There was Leslie Crowther.
What's his name?
There was Leslie Crowther. There was Matthew Kelly.
That's it, Matthew Kelly.
Yeah.
I did it with Matthew Kelly when he was a presenter.
Mm-hmm.
And I was asked to sing, and I said, you must be kidding me, I'm not a singer. And then they wanted me to be Charles Aznavour, and they chose one of the most toughest songs called She. But it was a challenge, so it was the most horrifying and most worrying, most nerve-wracking television show I ever did in my entire career. To sing in front of millions of people. So sometimes I do things that are kind of quirky, but because they pose a challenge. And I also enjoy doing Celebrity Get Me Out of Here. I did the first one, by the way. And I was the first celebrity ever to eat a creature. And I'm a vegetarian, so you can imagine how I felt. But I knew I was doing it for charity. The money went to charity. So I knew that I had to put my morality on hold for a few seconds.
I really enjoyed watching you in that, I must admit. So, and I'm sure a lot of other people did, because it's something that puts you into a different environment, doesn't it? And people see you for what you really are. Exactly.
But today the celebrities, I believe, get tremendous amounts of money.
Yeah.
And so it's partly they do it for money, partly for publicity. If anyone asks me, celebrities call me up and ask me, "Oh, Uri, we've been asked to do ITV Celebrity Get Me Out of Here, but I don't know if I want to do it. It's not." I tell them, "Come on, you're crazy if you don't do it."
Yeah.
Because it puts you on the map in a big way, and then the financial gain from it, beside the fee that you get, really comes after the show, because then they approach you to do commercials and shows and lectures and so forth.
Yeah. Now, just to go back to your the next Uri Geller, I've got another question here. Can you just clarify Was the show about finding a real psychic or not a stage show psychic?
That's a brilliant question.
Yeah.
When I'm asked that question, my answer is the following. Because it's entertainment and it's not scientific, and we're not looking for any psychic superstar like Uri Geller, that's not my quest. My quest is to entertain people, and I'm an entertainer. Now, whether you believe in what I do or you don't, that's not my problem. And that's how I wanted to create my show. I was not the person who chose the entertainers. So whether they were real or not, whether they were paranormalists or mentalists or magicians or illusionists, I didn't care. I always said that what you're about to see, we're not claiming any supernatural powers. This is entertainment. I don't know how they do it because I don't. I'm not a magician. So I don't know how they, most of the acts, I honestly didn't know how they do it.
No.
I sat in the chair amazed and mesmerized exactly the way the people at home were. And to those of you who might be magicians and are listening to this interview, I've got news for you. I have never ever in my entire life read a magic book, and the only magic show I've ever seen was Siegfried and Roy because I missed my plane in Las Vegas and I went to see the show. So I'm not a magician. Maybe I created an act and I created amazing things, mentalism and so on, but I'm not a magician. So when these people performed in front of me, it was good that I didn't know how they did it. I was thrilled to see an amazing, entertaining act, and the people at home were the judges. I give the verdict on what I think I saw and what I believe, how entertaining it was, and I cover their personality, their charisma, their character, their stage presence, and I give a verdict, but it's the people at home that choose the winner.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's great. So you've explained that bit. Now, you bought a place called Llav Island. Do you still have it, and why did you buy it?
Oh, Llav Island is an amazing, amazing place. Because it was not expensive, so that's the first answer. And for that, the money I paid for it was just ridiculous. So I thought, wow, I mean, I can now, claim that I'm part James Bond because I own my own island. But the island has links not only to the pyramids, but also to King Arthur, King Robert the Bruce, and to the ancient kings of Ireland too. Now, it might seem forbidding, and it is certainly uninhabitable, but it is also one of the keystones to British mythology, and I'm just thrilled to be its owner. The connections to myth can only be understood by tracing ley lines. Susan, I don't know if you I'm sure you talk a lot about ley lines.
Yes.
And these are mysterious kind of invisible paths which dowsers claim to be able to sense as kind of flowing lines of energy. Now, ley lines link most of the world's significant archaeological sites, such as Stonehenge, the pyramids, and the great temples of Southeast Asia. They are kind of connected to powerful religious societies from long ago, such as the Knights Templar. So I made a lot of research about this island, and my research indicates, and there's a guy called Nisbet who realized that the three islands, one of them is mine, Llav, are arranged in precisely the same crooked line that marks the layout of the pyramids at Giza, and that was built by the pharaohs 4,500 years ago. So I want to believe that 5,000 years ago, Queen Scotta, who was the pharaoh's wife, sailed to North Europe, and she moored outside Llav Island, and she buried treasure on my island, and I would like to find it. So whether, I'm just imagining this, but this is a theory, and hopefully if I get permission by the Scottish Heritage, I'll start digging there. No. But it is an animal sanctuary, so you can't build there. You can't build there.
No, this is it. Okay. Right, a couple of more questions before we let you go, my love. First of all, is there anything in hindsight you wish you hadn't done?
Well, the one tragic event in my life is killing a soldier in war, but I had no choice.
No.
If I didn't pull the trigger first, I wouldn't be talking to you today.
Yeah. Okay.
This was in the 6-Day War.
Yeah.
But that Jordanian soldier is in me now. He's in my soul. He's embedded in my psyche. He's my brother, and no doubt I will meet him someday. And so, if I have to look back at things I regret, obviously, that is one of them. And I do have reoccurring nightmares and so on because of that. But hey, that's how life is. And I just want to say goodbye now to everyone who tuned in and listened. And thanks for your questions. And just to remind you, let me just plug a few things. My book is called. It's not my book. It's Jonathan Margolis' book. It's called The Secret Life of Uri Geller. Get it from Amazon. The 2 documentaries, The Secret Life of Uri Geller by the BBC, is on my website, including another one called Uri Geller, A Life Stranger Than Fiction. And my website also carries my email address. So if you want to email me and ask me something, I will email you back.
Okay.
All right?
Okay, just one more thing. We know that you've got a few things coming up in the what's name. Are there any plans to return to the US for any events?
You mean if I go back to America for a show or what?
Yeah, is there anything in America you're planning on doing?
Yeah, I'm really focusing on China now because for me it's a big deal. It could be between 100 to 500 million viewers, and I've got to get things right there. So my focus is more on China, and there's no doubt that once that show is over, I will be coming back to America to do more things. Okay. But yes, you're right. I've been a long away from America for a long time, and I just did a lecture to a big group of magicians in Florida. It was called a Genie Award or something like that, and I was amazed how many magicians actually give me so much credit and actually like me. So it's not true to say that, most magicians dislike Uri Geller. I was amazed to get so many standing ovations by magicians. And I want to believe that I brought in mentalism into the world in a big way.
Okay. So,
all right, Susan, it was a pleasure speaking to you. And
I have one more question to ask you from a friend of mine, Roy Basnett.
Okay.
I have a friend called Roy Basnett. Yeah, he's on Radio City. Yeah, and he's asking me to ask you, would you do some work for him sometime? Come on his show.
Yeah, of course. Where is his show? And
he's in Liverpool. He's a radio presenter, and he's asked whether you'll go on City Talk. I think it's City Talk, but
of course, no problem. As long as he calls me, and we'll do it over the telephone. Absolutely.
So I'm okay to pass your number on to him?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much.
Look, my love to you all, whoever you are out there, and sending you lots of good, positive energy.
Okay, Happy New Year to you, sir, and thank you again for taking time
You're welcome.
to talk to us. Till next time, good night and God bless.
You're listening to Parasearch UK Radio. News, views and reviews from the world of the paranormal from across the UK and beyond. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web. Parasearch UK Radio.